It is the 41st millennium. Mankind battles for survival across the universe, besieged on all fronts by the heretic, the mutant, and the alien. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. One faction of Space Marines stands amidst the chaos, the mightiest of the Emperor's warriors, and a beacon of light in the darkness. This legion, the 9th Legion of Adeptus Astartes, the Blood Angels.
Yeah. Let's do that shit. They're really good right now. They're great units. I'm looking forward to playing with them a lot over the next few years because they're nice and cheap and really useful. Yeah. Apparently you're muted. Chat says.
I'm very good at muting myself, apparently. You can tell them the story about tomorrow night's episode.
I've heard that once or twice. I heard
I was actually muted, yeah.
I've heard you might have been given a little shit about being muted once or twice in your life as well.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. I mean, no one wants
Tony and by your wife as well, you said.
I was going to say, no one wants to hear what I have to say now anyway, with all I am is salty about half my army going in the bin.
Yeah. We can summarise all the text of this evening's episode by wah.
Through Peter Griffin style, huh? Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the Not Bitter at All stream on on Blood Angels. I mean, Blood Angels are great.
Yeah,
Firstborn Marines.
None of this is unpredicted, is it? I mean, we knew that they were going to try and like shuffle all the old kits off the Mortal Coil at some point sooner or later, but bringing the index out, making rules good for things, making things legends, and then saying, "Oh, by the way, in 3 months, this stuff is going to be legends as well," and we're going to take the rules out. I
think that's possibly what's done it for me. Good evening, Eternal Crusader. Good evening, Nathan. We've got Mark Jackson in chat. Me Bothering You is here as well. Hello, Me Bothering You. Miguel, good evening. What are you hobbying tonight, Mark? What are you up to? Are you just here to keep me non-salty? Is that the goal?
Partially, and it's an excuse to build stuff as well. Given that Sniper Scouts are going to be nothing soon, I'm thinking of looking at alternatives, basically, because what I was using them for is lone operatives, backfield, skirmishing stuff. And so other alternatives we've got are assassins, which are cool, and that new Primaris Lieutenant from the Leviathan box. So I've got a sprue of all the Leviathan characters here, which I've yet to do anything with. So I figured I'd build that guy tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the Leviathan kits go together very, very quickly, and I found out that the other night. I built 2 Ballistus Dreadnoughts in like an hour and 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, they were great. They were really good.
And then I looked at my Brutalis Dreadnought and saw it was a whole sprue with 1 million little pieces, and I went, ugh.
My other option this evening was to build 10 Wraithguard, or 15
Oh, don't be a
Wraithguard.
dirty Eldar player, no.
Yeah, that's why I'm not doing it, because I didn't want to subject myself to that level of abuse. But I do have them, and I do need to build them at some point, even though they have just got nerfed.
Did they nerf Wraithguard, did they?
Yeah, they nerfed Wraithguard in 2
do?
ways, with 2 clarifications. The first nerf was the Spirit Seer that used to be able to bring them back in every command phase
Yes.
has now been clarified to say only your command phase.
Oh, that's good. That's nice. 2 resurrections a turn was
it's
ridiculous.
Clearly a stupid thing that they wrote, and they've corrected that, which is cool.
Okay.
The other thing is the thing where they've said where if you attack them and they get to shoot,
Yes.
and they get the pistol rule, they've taken the pistol rule out of that.
Oh, right. Okay. Interesting. So when you attack them, what they can? So what can they do in melee now then?
Not an awful lot, really. I mean, they can like hit you with wraith fists or something, but
Okay.
Alright, so you don't get to shoot their 10 melter guns into melee and just decimate you that way. I mean, that's good.
They're the mega melters, which are much ridiculously worse, yeah.
Well, they were, when I played them, they could take as many fate dice as they want, and that was horrific. Good evening, Jim. Good evening, Seraph Song. Michael says, I've retired Tycho. Michael, I basically retired Tycho myself last night. And it was a very sad day because Tycho has been retired for me for the best part of like a decade. He literally came back for, 6 weeks? I think I played him 4 or 5 times. And now he's retired again.
So, Seraph, there wasn't an actual article on Warhammer Community, but there was a little sort of like... They got some little buttons that they do at the top of where the article list is for like small news flashes. And in there they announced that they'd done an errata to a bunch of data sheets, tweaking some of the rules interactions that they had and changing. So like all the Furioso Dread now has a Dreadnought keyword that it never used to. And the Librarian Dread that didn't have the smoke keyword now has a smoke keyword, like it should have, but they didn't type it in because they fucked it up.
I was going to say Assault Marines. I was going to say Assault Marines got a melee profile if you had a meltagun, but I mean, I guess Assault Marines suddenly have become so much less attractive as of last night. Are you going to run any of the Firstborn stuff that is? I'm
not going to do any Space Marine shit until the new codex comes out. I'm just going to sort of leave them be for the next few months.
Okay.
If GW are going to throw everything in the air and not tell us how things are going to work and what is going to get squatted and what's not, and what's going to replace them and what's not, then fuck them.
Oh, cool. So it's not just me that's bitter.
No, not at all. But what I will do instead is I'll work on things that I know are still going to be there in one way or another. So I've already got the Primaris Lieutenant that's going to have lone operative, so I'll build him. He'll be cool.
Yeah.
I've got my Knights. I'll play them a bit, especially now that they've got nerfed as well, so they're a little bit less ridiculous. And I might even play my Eldar against some local dickheads who deserve a good kicking.
I was thinking of making a video called the five Primaris units that I think will have the most longevity in 10th edition, because I feel like everyone's going to be confused as to what the hell to buy now. Because, well, I made the video last night. I'm sure some of you guys have seen it, and I felt I was actually 50-50 on releasing that video. Like, I'd made it, I'd filmed it, I'd watched it back while I was uploading it, and I was like, man, this video is not good. And then Kev actually came and spoke to me today. I don't know if you know Kev from my channel. He's played me a few times. And he was like, he said, really good video last night. And I was like, was it? I thought it was really negative and bad. And he was like, I am so angry about like a lot of my Firstborn stuff. And I'm glad that someone has said it. Apparently Kev put a post on like the Warhammer Facebook where he was very angry as well.
Oh, yeah. So, I also did something similar where I expressed my opinions to them.
Okay.
You've got to work this anger out. It's a thing. It's fair to be angry. It's cool to be angry. But
a few people said that they actually emailed Games Workshop. I don't know if that makes any difference. They've got their plan. At the same
time, you can kind of see their point of view. If there's old kits that aren't selling very well, or if they're going to be replaced with new versions of the kits, then I can kind of see why they're doing it. We also don't know how they're going to be replaced.
Yeah,
they might just be dropping the old Scout models and making new Scout models, and the datasheet will still be the same, called Scouts, in the same way Sternguard are just called Sternguard now, and Terminator is just called Terminator.
Well, if they do that, and you can just take your old Scouts and throw them on bigger bases, I will feel like a right jackass.
Oh yeah, but the thing is, they're not fucking telling us.
Yeah, I think it's the communication that's the big problem for people. Because I've spent all my time since... I've spent all my time, which is very limited, like, to hobby time. I've spent all my hobby time since Leviathan came out working on my command squad and working on assault squads. Literally all of it.
The only one. I'm sure if Highland is in the text chat, but he's been pretty...
I was going to say, Highland's been building 3 command squads, yeah?
Yeah.
That's a lie, actually. I've painted a couple of bits on Predators, and I've painted a tiny little bit on this Repulsor, so I'm actually exaggerating. But still, I've spent majority of my time getting my command squad converted, making Eviscerators. It's just like, right at the start of edition, you're trying to get competitive for the edition. You don't expect to get a data card for something that suddenly isn't there anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, and is going to be dead within a few months, having just had the rules released for it that you expect to be.
Turner Crusader says he's holding his breath for Vanguard veterans. I think...
It wouldn't surprise me if they do new Jump Guard Marines and they give them a whole weapons thing.
You think they'll actually give them the weapons thing? I'm worried they don't, because that's usually what happens with Primaris units. They don't get very many weapon options.
Look at Stern Guard. Stern Guard are now joint Primaris and firstborn, and they've got a good amount of weapon options on their data sheet.
It's less than the firstborn, but I guess we probably have to just suck that up and agree that it's going to be less, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, they don't have any melee weapons now. Like, you can't give the sergeant a thumb.
They got the combos and they got the combi weapons and they got the heavy weapons and all this sort of stuff. So they got a bit of flexibility. In what
they got some, okay,
which is more than the current Vanguard vets have.
Yeah, the current Vanguard vets have lost a lot, I guess. Heirloom weapons to me. Yeah, it's tough. Jason saying the writing was on the wall for the firstborn. Death was near. Yeah, I think I said it last night. Like, I don't think I'm going to buy any more firstborn kits. It's too risky, man. Like, it's far too risky. I don't have time to play Horus Heresy. It's not that I'm not interested in it. I just don't have time to commit to another game.
And you can't now trust that Workshop will support us on things that we spent money and time and effort and paint on. So, Sodom. Which is a real shame.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for... Do you know what? Tony called all this, actually, didn't he?
Yeah.
Tony called all this over in the Grots channel, and that is a great segue to tell you about tomorrow night's 3 Grots in a Vox live premiere here on YouTube, isn't it?
Yep. Just to be clear, it is a live premiere. It is not a live episode. It is pre-recorded. So if you say stuff in chat, we will not pay any attention to you.
Well, we might be in chat to answer you, but we
right, that's true.
Won't be answering you in real time.
On the screen won't be paying any attention to you.
Yeah. We've got an episode coming out tomorrow night, actually, all about Blood Angels. Disclaimer: we filled the 4 assault marines and some other things were cut. So maybe we just need to take that with a little bit of a pinch of salt.
I was thinking about that, but I was also thinking that none of the things in there are going to get massively affected by it, because it's mainly only meant to be a sort of like a how to continue if you want to get started with Blood Angels sort of thing.
So David said,
go from what you got.
David said jump intercessors are coming with the codex.
They've been rumoured for so long.
Yeah. Antonia says jump intercessors are going to get 4 chainswords and a plasma pistol. That's the worrying thing if they don't get any weapon options, because chainswords are not a good weapon in this edition.
If they do, then the same thing will happen to them as what happened with Outriders. Nobody will buy them.
Yeah. I was actually saying last night, I was like, I want to run. I was considering looking at Outriders, and then I was like, man, but the rules just suck, don't they?
Well, some people will buy them for the models, but
yeah, I mean they're cool models, but that's as far as it goes for me. DTM's in the chat. Hello, DTM. Jim says he doesn't agree Sternguard veterans have options. Michael says, aren't eliminators essentially new scout snipers? I guess, but their rules aren't as cool as I think that's the issue. Is that the scouts had the...
To make them lone operatives, you've got to take a character with them, which bumps their points up to about triple what a unit of sniper scouts was, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, sniper scouts were very point effective. I think that's the thing that probably... I think a few people have mentioned that. Is like, people... Whenever index cards come out, people are going to look for the most point-effective stuff. Yeah. And then, because people want to win games and they look for the point-effective stuff, so Scout Snipers were, for 75 points, a unit that could hold an objective and not be targeted unless you're within 12 inches, which means a lot of the time they just couldn't be targeted. So Sniper Scouts were very, very good. Their rifles weren't too bad either, to be honest.
Yeah.
Minus 2 damage at 36 inches. Like, it wasn't... They really weren't too bad, I feel like. So, yeah, people look for the most point efficient stuff, and eliminators aren't really point efficient for what they bring.
An Eversaw Assassin could be, and I'm looking at that, to be honest, because he's only about 70 odd points.
I had an Eversaw Assassin. Miles played it against me with his Knights, and the Eversaw was so good against Terminators because I think he's got like anti-infantry 2-up or something, or is it 3-up? Like, so Eversaw Assassin...
I'd be taking him for being cheap and lone operative, to be honest. Everything else would just be a bonus.
Well, he was eating Terminators up, like really eating them up. Let me see if there's any other questions in chat. If I miss anything, remember you guys with green names, you superstars that are chat members, you get free super chat, so use that because then I'll definitely see it. And the same thing goes if you're over on the 3. So yeah, if you guys are wanting some Warhammer content tomorrow night, what time are we going to put it live? Like 8 o'clock, Mark?
Yeah, that's normally when we do it.
So before we end this video,
that's UK British summertime for those who aren't clued in.
I was going to say, let me plug our other channel, our podcast channel. The podcast goes out every second week. If you've not subscribed to it yet, then we would both appreciate it if you did.
Yep. We talk all sorts of bollocks. It's great.
Yeah, and actually, we start tomorrow's episode with like a 20-minute story about how Mark managed to get a dead insect inside his ear. So we will leave it at that. And if you wanna hear all about the dead insect inside his ear, you need to tune in tomorrow night.
Thanks for reminding me of that. Cheers. I appreciate everything you've just said.
Do you know what? I was at A&E with my daughter not that too long ago, and we were waiting like 6 hours. And like once we'd been waiting about 6 hours, I was kind of getting, let's just say, it was like middle of summer, so it's like 30 degrees in the A&E waiting room or something, and I was just like, credit my daughter's like 2, so she's waited like 6 hours, and I was saying to the folk around me, I was like, man, it's pretty crazy that make a 2-year-old wait in E&E for 6 hours, and like I was getting irate, and then someone actually said, you know what, if you've been waiting 6 hours, you should see it as a good sign because it actually means there's not too much wrong because they've like
that's absolutely right.
Deprioritized you, and I was like, okay, yeah, but at the same time,
if they're not going to get hurt or not going to get any worse, and somebody else is like bleeding out their leg, then it makes sort of sense, really.
It does make sense, but at the same time, I was like, oh my god, 6 hours in A&E. I mean, it's bad enough when you're waiting on yourself,
but with a child as well.
Waiting for a child, it's brutal.
They won't understand the concept of triage.
No. So I have completely pivoted then, in that if we roll back a week, I was working on a command squad and a 10-man assault squad. I'd made some, I'd like jerry-rigged some eviscerators by cutting chainswords in half and sticking them on each other so I could have like longer chainswords or whatever you want to call it. And now I guess I'm going in actually painting a repulsor, and I did spray this guy.
Because repulsor's a safe bet.
So I have a ballistic dreadnought sprayed.
Given the timeline we've been given for any kind of balance updates and stuff, Lancers are a safe bet for a good few months now.
Lancers will be a safe bet for a good few months. I want to give the ballistic dreadnought a try. I don't think it's going to be like life-changing. I think it might be worth trying.
I seriously looked at the ballistic dreadnought, and I kind of wrote it off as a serious contender because it just, the highest strength weapon it has is strength 12, so it wounds toughness 12 stuff on 4s.
Okay.
I wanted something higher than strength 12 to wound toughness 12 stuff, which is basically knights and some of the harder tanks on 3s.
Cool. Yeah, and the Lancer is literally the only thing that will do that. Or if you attach it, if you put a Thunderstrike in your list, you can get that +1 to wound on range shooting, which is pretty useful.
Yeah, you can. Also, the Ballistus is a lot more resilient than a Lancer.
A little bit. It's nice. It's not a lot more. I think it's like 1 more wound and 1 more armor save.
Well, going from 3 up to 2 up armor is not nothing, mate.
No, I suppose it's not.
It's
not, but I don't know if it's 30 points difference because that's what.
Well, would you rather do that and pop smoke and armor of contempt on a dreadnought that's a native 2 up save, or on a tank that's a native 3 up save?
Well, yeah, I suppose you would, but I think you're right. The thing to get excited about the Gladiator Lancer is the gun, right?
Yeah.
Like with the built-in rerolls to the hit, the wound, and the damage.
If you're taking it to kill stuff.
Yeah,
and
you're not
best
taking
gun
it
for killing stuff is the Lancer cannon.
Possibly
a Vindicator cannon.
I was going to say, yeah, the Vindicator cannon has been really good for me. I've used it in 2 games now, and I'm running double Vindicator, and like if I put Oath of Moment on a target, and it doesn't even matter what target it is, like a toughness, I think it was a toughness 13 Rogel Dorn, and then I just blow it off the board with the Vindicators, and it's like the Vindicators are durable as well because of their T11, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I quite like the Vindicators and the Demolisher cannons, and I guess they're quite good against infantry as well because you've come up against Blast, you could get like 11 shots out of like the Strength 14 -3 cannon.
Yeah. The downside on the Vindicator is twofold. One, they cost a lot more points at 200.
They are
plus.
expensive, yeah.
And two, they're limited to range 24, which is not so much of a big deal, but it is worth bearing in mind.
It hasn't been a big deal because I've been playing Gladiators and they can move 9 inches in advance and shoot because of heavy doctrine. Yeah. Jason says, was the insect going in your ear like the Wrath of Khan? No.
If you want to hear the insect story, I don't want to relive it again right here, right now. I lived it last week when we were filming tomorrow's episode, so if you want to hear the full story, tune into 3 Grots tomorrow and you'll hear the full story. Yeah.
Okay.
But hearing insects buzzing anywhere near my face these days is almost like a trauma response. It's not great.
Elder Crusader says there's a new Templar combo that is nuts. Helbrecht and Apothecary leading 10 Sword Brothers. The Apothecary gets T-Bones for half damage, and the unit gets a 5-up Feel No Pain. Sword Brothers now can get 2 Lightning Claws. Oh, interesting. Okay. I know Black Templars are really good because there's multiple ways you can give big, like 10 mana and 20 man units 5-up Feel No Pains, and the more models you get that 5-up Feel No Pain on in your army, like it can be a big.
Oh yeah.
What do you call it? It's like a force multiplier, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Black Templars are one of the top factions right now. I just haven't played them myself this edition yet. Tech Squad says, I don't think the Ballistics Dreadnought is good. Utility-wise, I feel like the Ballista should have been folded into the Redemptor so you had more than one weapon option. I don't think the Redemptor's good either at the moment because
he's got the Dreadnought keyword now.
The Plasma Cannon doesn't kill anything anymore. Well, I mean, it doesn't kill armor, and that's why you would. That's typically why you would take a Redemptor Dreadnought, is to do flat 3 damage to armor. Well, you can't do that anymore.
And its ability makes it clear that you're meant to be using it as a defensive piece rather than an offensive piece.
What's this ability? Just the -1 damage?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. I have 3 Redemptors. I don't think like I want to field any of them. That's what I was trying to say last night. It's like they're getting rid of all these firstborn units, but like when you actually break it down, like a lot of people have a lot of Primaris units. Like I have it's not like I haven't been buying Primaris over the years. Like you can see behind me, I've got Leviathan, I've got Indominus.
There's a giant green screen.
It's not there tonight. I put it down.
Is it? I can see the.
You can see it because we're on a Skype call. Yes.
Right, fair enough. That'll do it.
Okay. On my stream, you can't see it. The green screen is down. No problem. But yeah, I have bought all the Primaris releases. Even what is it? Shadow Spear? Yeah. What was that? Yeah, Shadow Spear, like the Vanguard kit. I bought that as well. So I've bought every single Primaris release that they had. So it's not like killing the Firstborn is going to make me buy any more Primaris. I'm already buying them all.
No. What'll make you buy more Primaris is when they change the rules so that the stuff you've got is shit, and you have to buy new stuff that isn't shit. That's what'll make you spend more money.
Yeah.
Which is a fairly blatant sales tactic.
All right, so I've got a question for you, and I need to know your answer, and it's a tough question.
All right. It's anything to do with insects, you can fuck off.
No, it's if they release Primaris Sangre Guard tomorrow, and they're like a new kit, different weapon options or whatnot, and I assume you have like 30 painted Sangre Guard, give or take.
Like going on for 30, yeah.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think I was at like 25.
Like 25, but like 3 sets of 7. But yeah.
But the last 5 are like there or thereabouts. I could finish them in like a week's time. So I have like 30. At this point, if they release new Sangre Guard, are you buying? Like, are you replacing your 30 models, or are you just going to be like... Because I'm honestly at the point where, like, if I was going to a tournament, I would just straight up ask the TO, hey, my 30 Sangre Guard are firstborn models, do you care? And
they almost certainly wouldn't care, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Because
I don't know.
I mean, if they're a cool kit, I might buy a kit of them and work on them, but I'm not going to rush out and replace all 30 now.
No. I mean, if the rules didn't change and they just got awesome new models, then I might buy a box just to show willing and to show support for cool new Blood Angel kits, but they're not being played with, so they're not a priority for me in the least.
It's 205 points for the Vindicator. It is 205 points, but I think it's worth it. I've run it 2 or 3 times now, and it has always performed. It's difficult for the opponents to kill it because it's toughness 11 with like 11 wounds and a 2-up save. It's great. It's a great candidate for Smokescreen or Armor of Contempt. Like really great, especially if you can get cover on it, because you can get cover on it, which is very easy to do in vehicles. You get cover on it, and then you just go like, right, well, I've got cover on this tank, and I'm going to Armor of Contempt, so I'm ignoring 2 AP. I think I did that last week. I'm getting hit with like -3 damage, -3 weaponry, and I'm just saving on 3s. And I was rolling save after save after save on 3s, and it was, I want to say it kind of won the game for me, because he had to fire everything in his army into like a, he fires everything in his army into one tank. And it's like still got 1 wound left, and I even CP'd a save roll, so that like I was just like, CPing a save roll when it's got 1 wound left to sort of force him to fire his next couple of attacks at it as well. Yeah. So I really rate the Vindicator. I think it's really good.
Ariade's got a point in chat where if you do want to buy a Predator, a Baal, Pred, or a Vindicator, or a Land Raider, then buy the Horus Heresy version, because it's a much more modern sculpt and looks cooler, and costs the same price. So yeah, absolutely do that.
Oh, are they the same price, are they?
Yeah.
I didn't realise they're the same price. Okay, yeah, then 100% do that. What's, Destromix says, opinion on the Stormraven being a possible option?
I don't think it's more of an option today than it was yesterday, to be honest. It's still going to get shot to fuck before you get to put your Dreadnoughts anywhere where they're going to be useful to charge.
Yeah, the Stormraven for me feels like... Well, the problem I think we have right now is everybody's realising that it's an armour edition, so everyone's bringing tons of armour and anti-armour. Maybe on day one, like a month ago, if you'd been bringing a Stormraven, you could have got away with it. Whereas like now, if you fight my list, I don't know how many las cannons I've got, but it's a lot. Like I'd be able to blow your Stormraven out of the air in turn 1 for sure, I would think.
And because it's on a giant flying base, it's going to be really easy to draw a line of sight to and shoot.
Yeah, and it's only got a 3-up save, which means like if people are running, we talk a lot about like the triple Gladiator Lancer meta, which is probably honestly something that is going to develop because Gladiator Lancers for Marines are just too damn cheap. Like a Gladiator Lancer is just going to go straight through it. So like, it'll be what? Might be -1 to hit, so it'll be hitting on 4s, rerolling both, or rerolling 1, wounding on 2s because it's only like toughness 9, or maybe wounding on 3s, I suppose. But then it's -4 from a Gladiator Lancer, so you're not going to get a save on a Stormraven. If you use Armor of Contempt, you're only saving on a 6. How many points is a Stormraven these days? I actually don't know. But
a couple hundred. Let's have a look.
Nathan says the only fun he's having with infantry at the moment is boarding actions. I'm having a little bit of fun with the Blade Guard. Nathan,
255 for a Stormraven.
Yeah, that's too expensive, man. I mean, it's 16 wounds, right? You just closed it just as I asked it.
Toughness 10, 14 wounds, 3-up armor.
It's 1 more toughness than I thought it was. I mean, maybe you can give it some play. I'm not entirely sure. I'd be a little bit worried about it.
It's got a decent amount of guns, I'll give it that. It's also got -1 damage taken, which is...
Oh, does it? Okay. I didn't realise it was -1 damage as well. Okay, well maybe there's a play in a Stormraven. Kind of hard to say. I have a Stormraven. Yeah, run it. Like you're asking me, run it, dude. Run it in a game, and then come back here and say I ran my Stormraven in a game and it killed loads of shit. You should try it, and guess what? I will, because I don't have. I was going to say, I'm actually, like, with these changes to the Firstborn that just came out, I'm actually, like, I felt a little bit like sort of scraping the barrel with this Ballistus Dreadnought, because I feel like I need to buy another Gladiator Lancer. Like, I feel like that, like,
So I looked at 4 anti-armor firepower solutions about a month or so ago, and my ruling on that, my opinion on it hasn't changed. And those 4 options are the Lancer, the Vindicator, Predator Annihilator, and the Ballistus. And they've all got their pros and cons, and the Lancer is hands down the best due to most reliable firepower and points, as far as I'm concerned. Vindicator's second, because its firepower is comparable, and for all the reasons you mentioned earlier.
Yep.
Predator Annihilator is kind of third, because it's got 1 strength 14 gun, twin-linked, and 2 strength 12 guns. It's also cheap at 130 points.
I was going to say, is there not some bonus on the main gun as well, or am I thinking incorrectly?
Strength 14 twin-linked.
There's not a... What's the Predator Annihilator's ability then?
Oh, it's going to have ability, isn't it? I don't recall...
So I thought it had like reroll damage of 1 or something on its main cannon, or am I bullshitting?
It might be. Abilities. Each time a ranged attack is allocated to a monster or vehicle, rerolled damage roll of 1.
Okay, so it's got something a little bit more.
It's got punch and it's cheap. And it's got volume of shots. It'll do 3 shots, 1 at 14 and 2 at 12, rather than the 2 shots the Lancer does. So which is cool. And then there's the Ballistus, which is 2 shots at strength 12 and 2 shots at strength 10. So straight away, its firepower is just that little bit less. Yeah,
and for that you just get 1 better on your save, I guess. That's really all you get. Oh, you get baked in rerolls on the Ballistus to hit against toughness. Against targets that are above.
It also has another benefit outside the game, which is the fact that there's a lot of them on eBay at the moment, and they're relatively cheap to pick up. So if you want to get 3 of them, they're like 20 quid each.
Yeah, they're just Eternal Crusaders saying in chat it's hard to get gladiators at the moment. Is it?
Yeah, which makes perfect sense.
Okay. And weird.
You could go a repulsor shooty variant, but then you're also pairing points for the transport capacity, which you're not really making much use of.
I mean, I honestly think the best melee option we have right now is Blade Guard veterans. I think you can either attach them to a character or you can run them all by themselves.
You got to think about what you want them to do in your list, though. What their purpose is, whether it's to move through ruins quick, whether it's to hold an objective, whether it's to attack any other objective holders, whether it's going to be to do actions to fulfill secondaries or other criteria. Just got to. I'm not too sure what the purpose of bringing infantry in the list is at the moment.
In my list,
in most lists.
Well, I'll tell you what we did last week with Blade Guard veterans was came out of like a transport and held in like the transport gets destroyed eventually, I think. Then when they come out, you're only rolling 3 dice and each one is only 1 mortal wounds. It's very unlikely you're going to kill them. So you come out, then you stand on the objective, and then you do threaten enemy infantry as well with Blade Guard. You can also do actions.
Yep.
Last week I think I maybe actually just kind of snatched the win at the end of the game because the Blade Guard I only won. I think it was 88-55. And in turn 4, the Blade Guard were able to get me like 2 points for behind enemy lines because they like pushed into his objective. And the Blade Guard were very much ignored, right? Because like it's a tank war. Why are you going to shoot a whole tank at 2 Blade Guard? And I think he actually did try and kill them, but like they just bounced off. And then he was like, "Oh fuck those 2 Blade Guard! I'm just going to leave them alive." And then I think they actually scored like 6 points between them and won the game at the end. So that's why, like, someone was saying to me, is like, why aren't you running 6 Blade Guard? And I was like, well, I think if you make them 6, they suddenly become a target. Whereas if it's just like 3, most people are like, well, it's just 3 Blade Guard, I'll just shoot other stuff. And then guess what? At the end of the game, when you need to like deploy a teleport homer in the opponent's deployment zone for 5 points, well, I get 2 Blade Guard just chilling right there. They're like, yeah, we'll deploy the teleport homer. So I actually don't know if my Blade Guard actually killed that much in the last 2 games that I've played with them.
But they scored you points.
But they consistently score me points just for like being on objectives, being able to move around, sort of. I don't want to say unhindered, but if it's just 2 Blade Guard moving across the board, they're not really wasting their firepower on 2 Blade Guard. And guess what? Those Blade Guard win the game.
Makes perfect sense.
I don't know if I like the Whirlwind anymore. I thought it was going to be good, but I think like it's good at killing infantry, but like not many people are running all that much infantry. It seems like, at least in the games I've played, every game now is devolved into tank warfare. Like 10th edition to me in my meta is everyone's bringing big fucking toughness high things, and it's becoming a bit of a tank warfare.
Yep.
Which is fine.
It's not also a completely universally game-wide thing that infantry can't carry tank-killing weapons.
No.
In this case, I'm thinking of those Wraithguard again with their strength stupid distortion cannon things that they carry.
Yeah.
So why Marines don't have a single... I suppose they have chain fists.
Chain fists are not as good as you think they're going to be. I was convinced they were going to be really good into knights, and then you've got that big knight. Greetings, Highland Phoenix. How are you?
He's running it into that one knight with the -1 damage that screwed you with them, wasn't it?
-1 damage and -1 AP, and I think that's the thing that's confused me a little bit actually, because it's like, all right, you've got the Gladiator Lancer, which we know has like 72-inch range and a -4 cannon.
Yeah.
But you've got like a chain fist, and a chain fist's only -2, even into armor that's supposed to be like, you know, the be all and end all into. It's not.
Grav guns are like chain fists. They wound vehicles really, really easily, but they've got kind of pathetic AP, really.
Yeah, I mean, well, the grav gun into that
go
night
to a lot of effort.
would have been terrible, you know. Yeah, it's interesting. Why the chain fist have same AP as power fist makes no sense. Chain fists were all about AP. Yeah, and I mean, last edition you could get. I think Blood Angels had those chain fists at like -5 or something. It was kind of stupid. It does seem like AP on melee has dropped significantly, but some guns have managed to hold on to like really crazy AP. And I'm not sure. Like, it's harder to get your units into melee. It's harder to get them into the right like fight position now, I guess, because you can't. It's harder to get into cover after you fight as well, because you can't consolidate into like ruins or something to get out of line of sight. So everything about melee is harder to do.
Yeah. I get
Everything
the
about
idea
the
of
weapons
having
is worse.
heroic long slogs over a objective. That all makes sense and all, but there's just other things out there that make it redundant, so that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I haven't had like I had some like crazy fights in 9th edition. Like, I remember one game against like Eldar. I think he had like 10 Wraithguard and I had like 10. It wasn't quite 10. It was like maybe 8 Terminators and Apothecary, and like the whole game, like 4 turns or something, these 10 Wraithguard and these 8 Terminators were just slogging it back and forth on this objective. But I guess that doesn't happen now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad
this is a game for a few months, isn't it? So
yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, there's nothing we can. We just have to play. We just have to play the game. And I saw Lagmeister jumped into the chat and said, like, he's not playing Blood Angels at the moment because he refuses to play Red Ultramarine armor. Which I guess
perfectly fair opinion to have. Don't blame you for it in the slightest.
Yeah, I don't blame you either. I guess I'm just not gonna do that. Like, I only really play Blood Angels, so if we have to adapt and run a bunch, I've always adapted my Blood Angels, and that's why it used to annoy me last edition when people used to say like, "Oh, Blood Angels don't run Dreadnoughts," and I was like, "Well, I've been playing Blood Angels for 20 years, and I have about 10 Dreadnoughts, and I've always run them." You know?
Yeah, bloody do.
So
there's a reason why Blood Angels have the Furioso Librarian Dread Death Company Dread kit, because it's a massive, important facet of the Blood Angel lore.
Do you know what would make me really happy, actually, is if we did get... DTM says, unfortunately, I don't think there can do much to scale back lethality at this point. That ship has sailed with the index release. Has it? Yeah. Has it completely sailed? This is the lethal...
yeah. Where it is now, it's not going to get any less lethal than it is right now.
Do you remember at the start of 9th edition, though, the first codexes were pretty bland or pretty underpowered? Would it be fair to say underpowered?
At the time, they weren't. Compared to what came later, they were.
Yeah. I don't know what they're going to do. I kind of hope. I was going to say, it's not that I hate playing tanks. I actually don't really have a problem playing tanks. I think what I hope is that we will at least see diversity this edition. And I think that's what was really it wasn't upsetting, but to me it was boring last edition, where it was like, like I tried to do the show on a Sunday night where we look at army lists, and it was like, oh, here's an army list with 3 squads of Sandguard, 3 squads of Death Company, 2 squads of Assault Marines, and, well, the characters that buff that. Then here's the next army list, exactly the same. Here's the next army list, exactly the same. And I'd hope that this edition had got us away from that.
I kind of agree, in a way. In theory, I like the idea that tanks and vehicles are now much more important to the game that they never really used to be in 9th edition, which is cool. But there's just swung a little bit too far, really.
Yeah, I think so.
And I suspect the easy way that will get remedied is through missions. If things get changed so that infantry become important for scoring and vehicles a lot less so, then that'll drastically start changing.
Yeah, I mean, maybe vehicles just shouldn't have been able to do actions, that?
Or they had, 1 OC flat. Because, sure, a tank sitting on objective is well and good, but they can't exactly interact with it or do anything with it.
No, that's very true. That's what I was saying to Andrew the other night, actually. It was like, so you've got some infantry here, but I have my one... I had my Gladiator Lancer sitting on my home base, which is OC3. Mm-hmm. So you've charged my OC3 tank with, a squad of 5 Zeraphim. Well, I kill, 2 Zeraphim, and then your Zeraphim, which are actually, kind of a cool unit and should be useful in that situation. 3 Zeraphim sitting on an objective, they actually can't do anything anymore. Because Brigosaurus literally just joined the chat right now and just says troops feel useless. Yeah, you're literally on the point that we're making, Berg. Good evening, how are you?
There are 2 sets of troops or infantry I should clarify, that don't feel useless and haven't felt useless to me. And they are infantry with lone operative, so that I can sit back and not get shot and just hold things safely and not have to worry about the tank warfare, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is jump pack infantry, because they have the potential to be the fastest things on the battlefield, because they can generally jump 12 inches or so, and they can move straight through ruins because they're infantry. So where other vehicles have to go round them, jump infantry can just react really quickly and be where they need to be and where they want to be. Which, in a game where you've got tactical objectives rather than fixed, the ability to react with speed to that kind of thing is quite important.
Marcus says you could bring 1 of each of the Primaris Dreadnoughts, maybe 2 regular Redemptors with Blade Guard behind them. Yeah, I mean, you could, Marcus, and I think that was actually a pretty good tactic last edition. The problem is now, I don't think Redemptors kill any enemy armor. So you're just going to get peppered by the enemy armor while you slowly march your Redemptors forward to try and get in melee range, and you'll probably never get there because your plasma, only being strength 9, means you'll be outgunned, and I don't think in an edition where you could get you could come up against a player that's running all battle line troops but just has 3 Gladiator Lancers. Well, you're never going to kill a Gladiator Lancer because it's toughness 10 with your plasma cannon. I mean, maybe you can with Oath of the Moment and stuff, but it's going to be a big ask, and it's going to commit everything, and then in their turn they're just going to blow one of your dreadnoughts up very easily with the Gladiator, and possibly they can outrange you by 36 inches. Kevin says Lamorta's Death Company squad still feels nice with rapid ingress. Are you 5-manning that, Kevin, or are you 10-manning that? Because I was going to try 5-man. I was supposed to be playing Andrew tonight, but he's going to see Oppenheimer. He blew me off for Christopher Nolan. How
Seriously?
dare he? Yeah.
Wow, that sucks. I mean, being ill is one thing, but blowing off an arranged game to go see a film instead that is literally out all week. Andrew, that's a dick move. I love you, guy, but that's a bit.
I was going to say, he's got kids, man, so it's...
you don't take kids to go see Oppenheimer?
Can you? There's not death and destruction or anything in that movie, no? I haven't seen it yet.
A movie about developing nuclear warfare? Nah, it's going to be totally kid fine.
Yeah, it's going to be fine. Okay. Maybe it ends when they send the plane over with the bomb on it. Who knows? But I mean, it's Christopher Nolan. I mean, I can forgive that in that Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite.
Yeah, all right.
I loved Interstellar. Have you seen that?
Interstellar was amazing. I have mixed feelings about Tenet. I
love Tenet. Loved it.
Tenet
Loved
was
it.
beautiful and wonderful to watch, but it was a bit overwhelming.
I was going to say, how many times have you watched it? Because it's better on the second watch.
Just the once actually in the cinema. I didn't go back and watch it since then, although I have picked it up digitally.
Watch it again.
His Batman movies are some of my most favourite movies of all time.
Yeah, so I feel like it's harsh to judge him and be like, you bastard, you're going to see the new Christopher Nolan movie. Because, hey, if I didn't have kids, I'd probably go do that as well. But I would definitely have no problem blowing off Andrew.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, if he's going to see Barbie, maybe that's another story, yeah. Dogfight, thank you so much.
Barbie was really good, actually.
Oh, have you seen it, have you?
Yeah, fuck yeah. I'll go see Barbie movie, that looks great. And it turns out to be a really serious social commentary that makes you think the world is shit just as much as Oppenheimer does, which is, like, ironic.
Okay. Dogfight, thank you so much for becoming a member. I do appreciate it. Much appreciated it. If you haven't yet signed on to our Discord and got into our members only room, then now's the time, brother.
Right, there we go. What
have you built?
One Primaris Lieutenant ready to go
cool.
on base.
That's the one with the tyrannic shoulder pad.
Yeah, that's the one. And the lone operative ability.
Would it have been easy then to add like a Blood Angel shoulder pad to him, or was the arm all one piece?
No. You'd have had to chop a load of stuff off. It's really, really difficult to change the shoulder pads on this thing.
Cool. I've been working on filming my video where I converted my Dante to have a decapitated Bloodthirster of Khorne's head on his base, and I'm very pleased with how it turned out. So I had because Brett gave me a Bloodthirster of Khorne, just like the leftover of the sprue.
Oh yeah.
So I had where did I put it? I had the Bloodthirster of Khorne, and I also had the Zinstimen thing. What's this thing called? Can you see that on the base?
Keeper Secrets. No,
yeah. So I have I think it's the head of a Keeper of Secrets on this Ballistus Dreadnought.
Or was that
So, just to try and make him look a little bit different from the other one, I decided to stick a decapitated I don't know how he decapitated the Keeper of Secrets with his las cannon and missile launcher.
Hey, if a single Tau Fire Warrior can beat a Great Demon of Tzeentch, then Dante can fucking do it.
Okay, but this is a Ballistus Dreadnought. So the Ballistus Dreadnought stomped on the Keeper. The Heaven Phoenix thing says it's a Lord of DTM saying it's Lord of Change. God damn it.
Lord of Change, yes. Slanesh was a Keeper of Secrets, sorry.
Yes, you're right. I think it was Kairos Fate Weaver sprue, because I think Brett has Kairos Fate Weaver, but he can also be built as a Lord of Change, I think, is the... I don't know heretic stuff. If you're already in Discord, all you have to do is you go into your Discord settings and you link. So you like inside Discord, you click settings and you click connections. You connect your YouTube account to your Discord account, and then the members room will just appear when you do that.
Yeah, make sure your YouTube account is connected and linked to your Discord account, so the two programs talk to each other, and then Discord will know that you are a supporter of this channel.
Thank you so much, though, dog. I appreciate it. I'm not... basically, Mark, I know Auspex... I said this last night. I know Auspex Tactics put out a video saying Blood Angel's win rate sucks. I don't care what he says. I mean, he may have like 200,000 subscribers, but hey, this is a real Blood Angels channel right here. Yeah. I will build my tanks, I will paint my tanks, and I will win. I promise you I will win more than 38% of my games.
Yeah.
I promise you that. So, yeah, I mean...
That sort of stuff matters to people who can get a new army and play whatever army is winning at any given time, which is definitely not everybody.
No, and... I'll tell you a funny story, actually. It's about football, but it's related a little bit, right?
Okay.
In that, like, Scotland have been terrible at football for the longest time. My whole life, We've never won a qualifying group. We've never won a qualifying group, ever, in my entire lifetime.
Okay.
I'm 40 years old this year.
Whippersnapper.
Yeah. And this year, Scotland have won their first 4 games. We've beaten Norway with Erling Haaland and Martin Odegaard. We've beaten Spain. We've beaten everybody. And like, I said to my friend, I was like, it's a bit weird, because Scotland just beat everybody now. He's like, yeah, I've never supported... And I was like, I've never supported a team that just win all the time. It's getting a bit boring. I was like, he's like, really? And I was like, well, not really, but like, we just keep winning, like, every game. So it's like, if you want to go and chase the meta, I guess, and try and win every game.
I'm in a slightly different position. I've obviously got my Blood Angel Space Marines, which aren't the best thing in the world right now. I've got an Imperial Knights army, which are pretty good. I've got an Eldar army, which are pretty good. But taking them, I don't want to take them to a game against friends and have them go, oh, you just won because you're playing the latest OP shit, or you just bringing some OP shit and ruffle stomping, and it's not being much of an enjoyable game.
Yeah, that's
that's a really bad feeling, and some people can take that and not bother with it, which is fine. But it matters to me. So on the one hand, I've got an army that isn't going to win, so the percentages tell me. And on the other hand, I've got 2 pretty powerful armies that I don't want to play because they're not going to be fun games for me and my opponent. And my opponent happens to be my friend. Going to a tournament, different thing entirely. If you're going to a tournament, you're going to play to win. Fuck everybody else, because that's the goal. If that is your goal.
It can be, like, it can be 100% a goal to go to a tournament. But then here's the thing, like, and this is what I was... Right, last night, when I got or whenever it was, when the announcement came out that, like, all those firstborn Marines were going in the bin, and Games Workshop had said, like, they basically cited balance. They said, there's too many things in the Marine range, we need to cull them so we can get new stuff in the range and get it all balanced. And I was like... oh my days, because like Blood Angels throughout 9th edition, there was multiple patches. I guess I call them patches, but there were multiple, what were they called, chapter approves.
Yeah.
Where we were bog bottom. The only reason we didn't get buffed is because we were sitting on 45% win rate. If we'd been 1% lower, and we were 45% win rate for like a year, and guess what? We were on like 40% win rate again. Yep. Like, We've had a rough time these last couple of years, like in terms of win rates. And yes, we did win LVO, but if you really want to go down to it, like the terrain on LVO is the best terrain in the world. What do Blood Angels need? Really good terrain. So it makes sense that Blood Angels could be piloted to a LVO win in an event that has the best terrain in the world. But when you go to your average GT down your local club, guess what? They don't have the best terrain in the world. And that's why Blood Angels have a 45% win rate, because most people are playing on average terrain, I would assume, right? And I was like, when they cited that, I was like, oh, I really want to make a graph of the last, like the last 3 years as a Blood Angels player, because we haven't been above 50% not once. I don't even think we've been above 48% once. And yes, other armies have had it bad as well. DTM will be the first person to tell us that like Thousand Suns have never been above 45% much either. But it's I was like, man, it's nothing to do with balance while you're cutting these units. It's literally nothing to do with balance. Like, because the balance right now, or the balance over the last couple of years, has not been good. Because I only play one army, so like, there's been times when I've been frustrated. If I had another army, maybe I would have played the other army. But what I did, because I only have my one army, is I just went, well, I would go into a tournament, and I know the balance. This chapter approved season sucks. So I'm just going to take a super heavy tank to the tournament, because that'll be fun for me and my opponent. I might not win every game. I might. I've won games with super heavy tanks before, and I've surprised people with super heavy tanks. But I think I actually maybe even got a 3rd place in an RTT with a super heavy tank. So I think I did okay with them.
Yeah. Plus, you got to look at it in another kind of mercenary way. If you're going to a tournament to play to win, then one player out of everybody who goes to a tournament is going to win, and everybody else isn't. So the odds are against you, right against it. Therefore, if you're banking your entire enjoyment of a complete weekend based on winning, and if you don't, it's going to be a wasted weekend, then you're setting yourself up for a shit weekend.
Someone's asking to clarify, do I think Auspex is wrong? or do I just not? Does what he say really not matter to me? What he says doesn't matter to me because, and it's not like I'm dismissing his opinion. His stats will be right, correct, and probably for the majority of Blood Angels players, he will have that will be the number. He's got it from BCP, no doubt. So he has the data, like he has real life data. What I'm telling you is, I do not conform to like I said, if you went back into the middle of 9th edition and you looked at competitive Blood Angels players, I would say that, like, maybe you can help me here, Mark. What percentage of, remember when Armour of Contempt was out and the ultimate list was 3 squads of Death Company, 3 squads of Sanguinary Guard, 2 squads of Assault Marines with jump packs, maybe like Dante, a Sanguinary Priest, and maybe like Lamartes, was it? No, it was Astaroth, right? That was the list. That was the list that everybody saw as 100% the best Blood Angels list. Disclaimer, I never ran that at a single tournament because I was bored of having it shoved down my throat every single week as like, this is the best Blood Angels list. I like making my own. I like making my own lists. I don't like copying lists off the internet.
Anybody can lose and then decide that this is not working for them and want to do something else instead. Just give up and then change up what they're doing. Which, on the one hand, you might think is sensible, but on the other hand, is also possibly lacking conviction in the passion that you have in your playing. Whereas if you have the will to see something through and keep trying and make it work, that is practicing, that is developing your skills and your tactics, you're honing it, and you'll be a better player for it. And hopefully you'll have fun because you're playing what you enjoy.
Oh yeah, and get this, right? Like, the
You'll
guy...
see respect from people.
Yeah, the guy Innes, I don't know if you know him, I think his name is Innes Wilson. He won the Manchester GT last year, and his win rate in 9th edition, because I remember, like, I'm in a Facebook group, or I'm in a... Not a Facebook group, a Facebook chat. I'm in a Facebook chat with him, and his win rate in 9th edition was he went to God knows how many tournaments. He played 52 tournament games, right? He lost 2, right? Of course, the whole of 9th edition, or a lot of tournaments, I guess. How many tournaments you got to go to play 52 games? About 10 tournaments, right?
Yeah, give or take.
So his win rate's like 95%. Do you know what one of his losses was? To me. What was I playing? Some unorthodox double Redemptor 6-blade guard attack bike Blood Angels list. And I think the reason I beat him was because he came up against Blood Angels, thought, oh well, Blood Angels do this thing, and I'm not doing that thing at all because I've made my Blood Angels list through iteration and practice. And in that tournament, that was his only loss. He went 4-1. He only lost to me. I went 4-1 as well, for the record. But like, I think the reason I beat him was like he just didn't know what. Like, I beat him by like 30 points. It wasn't even that close of a game. It was just like, he came up against me, and I'm playing Blood Angels. 100%, I'm playing Blood Angel. I want to say I didn't have any Death Company, but at that time I wasn't really sold on Death Company with Thunderhammers. But it's like, so yes, Blood Angels probably have a 40% win rate, but you have to imagine that most people will have conformed to what they think is the strongest list, right?
Yep.
Whereas, like, there's nothing to say you know, like, Andrew played me last week with Sisters of Battle, and he ran 3 Castigators, and I'd never seen that before. Oh my god, those Castigators! They have a twin-linked assault cannon on top that gets to reroll hits and wounds. It's strength 9 -1, and it's also rapid fire 4. These things were insane, and I was like, I've never seen that before. But like, Andrew had done the time and delved into the codex, and Andrew's a big Sisters of Battle player, and it was like, after the game, I was just like, oh my god, those Castigators, man! Like, that was such a strong build, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like,
there's gonna be a time when the meta has swung so much towards anti-armor and anti-vehicle firepower that people aren't going to be able to deal with hordes of infantry. And you see that at the moment with Gene Stealers and Necrons, because it's really fucking tough to kill their stuff. It's really tough.
So I didn't know Auspix Tactics was a Blood Angels player, but that's he's got the numbers, right? He's not wrong. And guess what? I haven't been to any I haven't been to any tournaments yet in 10th edition. I'm not going to one in November. I was waiting for a little while for the rules to like shake out, because I remember at the start of last edition it was a bit of a mess. So it's like I'm not rushing out to go to any tournaments when, you know, I'm just going to get Rothel stomped by a 75% win rate Eldar with a million fate dice.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, DTM's right. Also... Like you can play off meta. You can choose your own list and try and play something that's off meta, and you can do fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Allspex has acknowledged the fact that you exist in one of his videos somewhere, so we do kind of like him as well.
Yeah, I know he's given me a shout. I'm sure I've recommended people to go watch his videos a few times as well. I don't think
if you want to keep up with the news, like all the news of Warhammer, you could do a lot worse than watch Allspec Tactics stuff. And his video on the Primaris Uber Motherfucker Marines.
Oh, that's hilarious! Yeah,
whatever it was called. The Primaris Game Breakers.
Yeah, something like that. The Primaris Game. Was that for April Fools? Was it?
I can't remember what it was, but it was funny as fuck.
Simon says, I'm new to sub channel. I just wanted to say rip to the firstborn. I used to run mechanized Bangles in 5th.
Bangles, Blood Angels.
Oh, Blood Angels with Razorback spam and non-jump pack assault squads. Is that viable now? Well, you'd have to run the assault squads as Vanguard veterans, and I think if you want to run Razorbacks and Van Vets,
well, you can run them as assaults for a little while longer.
I don't know how viable that's going to be in the current meta, though, because there is just so much armor around.
Yeah, the firepower on the top of the Razorback is going to be the crucial thing. If you take the twin las cannons, they'll be able to put a bit of punch out, but they will also only really do any damage to armoured stuff, so hordes a little bit less so. But then you've got the infantry jumping out to deal with that.
Yeah, I don't think it's the strongest, Simon, but the problem that we've got right now is like there's a big disparity between armour and infantry. Like armour is just generally accepted as probably better, I guess. Yeah,
and it's the first time in years this is the case, so it's a struggle to deal with for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that's why I think that although Allspex Tactics is correct in saying Blood Angels probably have a low win rate, I bet you if you go look at Blood Angels at tournaments, they're not running 8 armor units, and that's what I'm running at the moment. Because it was hard for me to change, honestly. Like the first couple of games, I was like, I'm not changing, I'm running all my infantry. And then I ran a couple of games with armor and was like, oh my god, it feels so weird as a Blood Angels player to be setting up 8 tanks on the board, but I'm starting to bring home the wins. And like, not that I only want to play to win, but like when you start winning and you're like, oh right, this actually does work, bringing 7 or 8 tanks.
I think that that Dreadnought-based Blood Angels list we did in the 3 Grots episode could have some mileage to it, because you're running Gladius because it's all nice and flexible, and all the Blood Angels buffs that you get are all based around melee, and in general the things that benefit from melee buffs are infantry, with very few exceptions, those exceptions being Dreadnoughts. So I don't know, maybe running melee Dreadnought focused Blood Angels list is the way forward. Therefore you get the strength of the tanks and the melee buffs.
Well, I was also thinking about maybe sneaking in some armigers, to be honest, Mark, because like it's hard for 140 points. I think that the Warglavy is crazy cost efficient, right? It's toughness 10. I think it's 12 wounds, right? It's got a 3-up save.
A lot of the strength that you see in it from the games you've played against it won't be there if you do that. Because you won't have access to the Knights rules, you won't have access to the stratagems, you won't have access to the bondsman abilities. But you've still got, like you say, a pretty tough vehicle with a nice high OC score, so...
It's the OC, it's the melee, it's the gun that I'm most excited about, right? Like, their gun is Melta 4. Or maybe it's even... Is it Melta 4 or Melta 6?
Don't know.
No, it can't be Melta 6, surely not. It's Melta 4, I think.
It's highly likely to be Melta 6.
But Melta 4 to me is just it's insane to put that on a 140 point unit that's got like a 12-inch move, and it's got OC8, and it's got an advantage in range. There's so much to like about armigers. I would say the reason Knights are so good is probably armigers. I could be wrong, but in
they're
the games
certainly part of it. They're absolutely certainly part of it.
I've played against them. I've really struggled with the armigers. I'd really hoped that they were going to change those armigers. So, like I'd said that before, like when they're really low on wounds, their OC goes down a little bit, because their OC. I mean, I know OC didn't exist last edition, but it was the same thing, right? They count as 5, they count as 10.
Yeah.
So it was like you'd have a 1 wound armiger counting as 5 OC, and it would be stealing an objective from like 4 or 5. Well, I guess it would be 5 infantrymen, and it was like, oh my god, armigers, they're just brutal. And they're still brutal.
But no, they're OC8 the whole time. Their OC doesn't degrade when their wounds profile does. Only the hit roll degrades.
It's melt 4 on the small ones, melt 6 on the big ones, thanks. Jim says armigers are so cheap for what they do. Yeah, I mean, I don't own any armigers.
140 points, fuck me. Wow.
But last time I borrowed some from Gav, and I actually ran 3 Warglaives to a tournament, and I'm like, man, if you're struggling to... Because the thing about the armigers is their melee is good as well. Like, their strength 10, I think... I actually don't know what their AP is, but I'm sure it's still 3 damage. So they're hitting with strength 10, 3 damage, and they get like 4 attacks.
Yeah.
So and they can swipe as well.
So here's another question about the stats. How do we know what counts as Blood Angels and all this stuff? Is it using Sons of Sanguinius, or is it using the Blood Angels keyword and a Gladius? Are they differentiating that with their stats? I have no idea.
Oh, that's a good question, actually.
Because if they're measuring purely who's running Sons of Sanguinius, then I can see why it'd be that low. If they're measuring people who run the Blood Angels keyword with Gladius, then that might be a different thing. I have no idea if they're doing that.
Yeah, I actually have no idea as well. Does anyone know? Strength 10 thermals would be... Oh, I'm losing. I've lost what you've said, Mike. Strength 10, what? Thams? Thunderhammers? Would be content. Yeah, I mean, strength 10 Thunderhammers would help a lot. The +1 to wound, like, I think if you run Thunderhammers or Powerfist, you just need to understand you always need to run Red Rampage. Like,
I don't think there's any real difference between Strength 8 Thunderhammers and Strength 10 Thunderhammers. They're both the same on against vehicles with +1 to wound.
Yeah. Dan says, to be honest, I don't know what our infantry is even good for at the moment. I hear you, Dan, and that's why my list last week I had 790 points of infantry, right? So basically, like, I had, what's that, like 1,200 points of armor. I've gone one step further. I'm now on 1,400 points of armor and 600 points of infantry, and I guess that's the list I'm going to run next week, assuming Andrew doesn't need to go see Barbie and blow me off again.
For me, infantry is good because they're the sole source of lone operator. So I can have things sitting around that can't be shot outside of 12 inches, and that's a really good use for infantry.
And I was going to say, yeah, I think like Vindicator Assassin is a very good option for that, and it will kill other people's characters' infantry, which will prevent buffs and stuff getting thrown out as well, which could actually be quite big, right? I played one game against Vindicator Assassin where I think it one-shot one of my characters with like a 9 damage sniper shot, and I was like, yeah, for the points, the fact he's lone operative, I think he's quite a good...
Oh yeah,
I think he's possibly the best assassin, I guess, or at least he seemed very useful.
I don't rate the codexes because its anti-psychus stuff is now completely irrelevant. And what
it's just sad because
not really that great.
It was so cool before.
Yeah, the Eversaw is good because it's the cheapest. The Calidus is good because messing with your opponent's strats is really handy. If you're going into knights and you make their rotate iron shields cost 1 extra CP for the rest of the game, that's a real pain.
I bet, yeah.
Vindicator is good because you're right, it's just pretty shooty.
Yeah, and I mean, if anyone's got attached characters that don't have invulnerable saves, then the Vindicator is going to be able to do some real damage there.
Yeah.
I thought that Blood Angels would actually have benefited more from like +1 AP than the +1 strength you get, because I think the problem is +1 strength on the charge, while it can be relevant, like if you were fighting infantry, +1 strength on the charge is really relevant, but the problem is we're not fighting infantry at all, we're just up against tanks, and when you're strength 4 with +1 on the charge against a strength 12 tank, then that +1 is actually kind of worthless.
+1 to wound was always useful. No matter what opponent. Well, no, tell a lie. There was things that like could only ever be wounded on a roll of 4+ and all that shit that it wasn't useful against. But let's just ignore that for the time being. In theory, +1 to wound is always useful. And in the same vein, +1 AP would always be useful.
Yes.
There's few places where it wouldn't be against like demons and so on. But for the most part, it would always be useful. I can see that.
But apparently, when the Space Marine Codex does drop, there's going to be multiple detachments that as a Blood Angels player we could use.
Yeah.
Right? There's not just going to be Gladiator's detachment. There could be like 3 or 4 different detachments.
I'm expecting like how many? There's 9 loyalists. Ignore so 6. So I'm expecting at least 5 detachments in Codex Space Marines.
And what's the logic behind 5? Sorry.
So Gladius will be Ultramarines.
Yep.
There'll be 1 for Raven Guard, 1 for White Scars, 1 for Salamanders, 1 for Imperial Fists.
Okay, yeah, maybe about 5. That would be cool.
Yeah, I'm expecting that, and they're going to be different in different ways. So the Raven Guard want to be focused on Phobos, and the White Scars want to be focused on bikes, and fuck knows how they're going to do all the other ones.
Okay. I was going to say the Iron Hands will probably be focused on tanks, which could be. I was going to say, which could be pretty scary because Iron Hands are the Space Marine chapter that always seems to come out of the woodwork when it's like, here's a buff for Space Marines for tanks, and it's like, all Iron Hand players, here we are.
Or firepower or resilience, yeah.
We're here.
Woo.
Yeah, everyone jumps on Iron Hands, it feels like, at least once an edition, because they're so good.
Yeah.
I always have to play one game against Iron Hands where Andrew's like, I've got this Iron Hands list and it's unbeatable. Like, okay.
Yes, Andrew. Okay. Why don't you go at Oppenheimer for a 3rd time?
I was going to say, I think I actually got more higher tournament finishes in 9th edition than Andrew.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think he won an event in 9th.
I think you take it a lot more seriously than Andrew does.
Do you know what? He goes to a lot more events, and he does take it seriously. But his problem, I think, is he always chases the meta, so he always plays the hot shit army.
Yeah.
And then I always think that the person that sticks with one army has the advantage because they've played their units to the nth degree, and they know exactly how to always get the best out of them.
Yeah.
Hello,
the
Jared,
person
how are
who's
you?
played the one army non-stop for years versus someone who's swapped 4 or 5 different armies, even if the person who's played the one army for years, if theirs is at the bottom, they're the one I'll always be that little bit more afraid of because they'll know it inside out, they'll know all the tricks, they won't have to think too much, they won't get as muddled up by things, they'll just have it all off the top of their head. It's like martial arts, isn't it? So a black belt knows all the moves reflexively.
Yeah.
And you'd always bet on a black belt with this is a bad metaphor, right?
I know what you're saying though.
Yeah,
it's kind of the same reason, I suppose, that like I don't buy that Blood Angels have a 40% win rate because like I don't think I went like because we had a 45% win rate last edition, and I think the worst I ever did at a tournament was 3-2, right? So I think that's 60%. Yeah. So it's like, well, I never went to a tournament where I did less than 60% win rate. So you can play a lower percentage win rate army, and you can be the I guess you can be the Enigma player that's not going to settle for that lower win rate.
If having a low win rate affects you, great. If it doesn't, then you have more respect from me.
Jack of all trades, master of none. Exactly. That's exactly right, Mike. So all you guys in chat that love and focus on the Blood Angels, it doesn't matter that we have a 40% win rate.
You are why we're here talking about this shit, doing this stuff.
I was going to say, if you're playing, if you've gone to a tournament this week as a Blood Angels player and you've got that 40% win rate, then I implore you to think about your army and go like, right, you know, what are other, like, hey, how is John, like, hey, I got beat by Imperial Guard and Sisters of Battle. John beat both of those this week, so how's he doing that? That's what you need to be doing.
Yeah, and it might mean compromising a few things or changing a few things, but half the game is knowing what your army can do, and the other half is knowing what your opponent's army can do and acting appropriately.
Hey guys, we've got 77 people watching. If you've got a minute and you haven't yet hit subscribe button, would you mind doing not subscribe, the like button? I appreciate that. Do you know what? If you're not subscribed as well, what the feck are you waiting for? You're here.
And the 3 Grots one as well. Yeah.
I was going to say the Blood Angels, the biggest Blood Angels community on YouTube is here, so it's time to hit subscribe. If you got into the video, that's what we're waiting for.
Yeah. I keep looking at the instructions for the wrong model. It's not helpful. It's like, where does this piece go? Where does it? Oh, it's the wrong thing. Ah!
I was going to say, I was so pleased when I opened up those Ballistus Dreadnoughts, because I was going to build 2 of them. And like, I only had maybe like 90 minutes of kid-free time, and I opened up the box and was like, oh my god, there's only like 10 pieces for each Dreadnought. I was like, oh, I'm so pleased, I'm just going to smash 2 Dreadnoughts out in like an hour.
The full Redemptor kit is so fiddly. So many bits, and the Ballistus is just so simple by comparison.
I've built 3 Redemptors, but so long ago I can't remember building any of them.
They're like layer upon layer of armor and piece and everything, and my god, they're annoying. They're pretty, they're beautiful, they're well sculpted, but they're annoying.
I remember having a hell of a time with one of my Contemptors for Forge World, where the legs just wouldn't stay on, and I had to glue these legs, and we just went over and over on these one set of legs, and I was like, this Dreadnought is kicking my ass. Like, why is it so bad? In some ways, I suppose I'm happy they don't have to work with the resin ever again.
Yeah, if you don't want to.
Well, it's not that I don't want to, I'm just really, like, I wanted an Astraeus tank. Like, I genuinely, if we go back 6 months, like, I think I even had a stream where people started donating to me to buy an Astraeus tank.
Yeah, you're absolutely
so
right.
So it's like, I think I ended up buying a Gladiator tank, but that's neither here nor there. I mean,
was that the New Year's stream? I can't remember.
It might have been. So I had a stream where people were like, John, just do it, just buy the Astraeus. And I think I ended up buying the Gladiator, and thank God I did, because Gladiators are really good, but, you know, like, now it's like, am I going to risk... I think Astraeus is about £250. Like, am I going to risk £250 on a tank that could get Legends at any of the future editions? Because... Oh man, it's...
I mean, you'd like to think that it will be there, but I wouldn't want to rely on that now.
Yeah. It really makes me wish that I'd bought the Astraeus over the Falchion, you know that?
Ooh, Jim's got a point. Bolter Inceptors are definitely a potential infantry worth taking. Not because they're infantry, but because of the whole deep strike scoring wherever the hell you want kind of rule.
I like Bolter Inceptors. Matter of fact, I actually played them in that game where I beat Innes. And I guess he was not expecting a Blood Angels player to have Bolter Inceptors, because guess what? No one was running Bolter Inceptors except me, probably. Everyone was like, plasma.
We talked about them briefly in the 3 Grots building Blood Angels army list episode we did the other week as well, didn't we?
I think they're very good at killing infantry, right? Like, 2-wound infantry.
It's not just that, it's the fact that the 3-inch deep strike range you can make, you can drop them in almost anywhere. It's really difficult to screen them out. And
also, they are basically they've got a heavy bolter with sustained hits 1, basically, and is also twin linked, right? Yep. That's the rules of it.
Yep.
So, like, for killing 2-wound infantry, that's about the best weaponry you can get. I prefer that to the plasma, because I don't want to have to risk to shoot it. You know, like to overcharge it or whatever you call it. Hazardous now is what's called.
So these days I agree, because it's got
sustained hits
as well.
I think it's sustained hits. So every 6 additional
twin link
wound.
reroll to wound. Reroll to wound is more valuable through twin linked for a lower strength weapon than a higher strength weapon.
Is sustained hits 2 on the Inceptors, or is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was 1. My bad.
Bolters get more shots as well. Yeah. I'd run bolters.
I like Inceptors now. I mean, I liked them before. Sorry, there was another question there. Tom says, hey guys, what's the best armature build for Blood Angels? I was thinking Warglaves. I think the Warglaves are better now because they can kill armor, right?
Yeah.
And I think armor is the most dominant thing in the meta right now. So if you've got Warglaves that can kill armor... I mean, I don't think...
40-point throwaway unit that can walk into midfield, be relatively resilient, melee anything that it wants to that's in its way, and sit there with high OC on an objective because you want to leverage the high OC.
Yeah, I mean,
you're paying for it.
On 1 wound, it's sitting OC 8, which is obnoxious. Andrew had 2 1-wound armigers on an objective. It wasn't Andrew, I think it was Miles. But regardless, 2 1-wound armigers, and I'm dealing with 16 OC on the objective, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, why have 2 1-wound armigers get 16 OC? It's like, I can never take this objective. Like, I just can't. There's nothing I can do. It's your objective until you decide,
What loadout do you think is best for a Land Raider Redeemer? You don't have a lot of choice, do you, really? So
do you have
got to have the flamers on the side. You got to have the twin assault cannon in the middle. Yep. And then you give it all the free things it can have, because they're all free. So you give it an extra storm bolter, you give it a hunter killer missile, you give it a multi-melter, because why wouldn't you? They're free.
Yeah, I don't think there's any option there, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so. Seems pretty straightforward.
Okay. Yeah, maybe he's asked. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Build it with all the things.
I was going to say I can't decide about because we're all here saying that we don't think infantry are very strong, right? Like we're all saying that. We're not sure.
As a general principle, yeah.
We're not sure how strong infantry are. So if we're all sat here not sure how strong infantry are, do you still think? Because the only difference between a repulsor and a land raider, because repulsor carries 12 and it can take centurions and blah 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 blah. The only thing it's not got is the assault ramp. Mm-hmm. So is an assault ramp to let your infantry out worth 90 points? And I'll tell you right now. So the list I made last night, because I only tried to, I think the only melee unit Blood Angels have that's probably going to be good in the Gladiatus detachment, i.e. we don't get the +1 strength, which is the detachment I'm playing, is Centurions, like Assault Centurions, because they're strength 10, -2, 3 damage. And again, they're actually the only unit that we have in melee that does 3 damage infantry-wise. The only other infantry model that does 3 damage is Gabriel Seth. We all know how certain people feel about Gabriel Seth. I actually think he's not bad this edition, but regardless, right? So I'm going to put 3 Centurions and 3 Blade Guard in this repulsor. So obviously I cannot charge out of the repulsor after it is moved. Mm-hmm. I guess turn 1 I'm going to use my Heavy Doctrine. So my repulsor moves, I think it's 10 inches, then it will advance D6, and then it will shoot all its weapons because of Heavy Doctrine. So turn 1, on average, I guess I'm 13 inches forward. So if we imagine most deployment zones are about 24 inches apart, I'm 11 inches away from their deployment zone. So turn 2, if I just disembark my Centurions, so they're disembarked within 3, and then you move forward 4, I'll be 4 inches away from their deployment zone. I think it's pretty hard to kill a repulsor in 1 turn, because it's toughness 12 with 16 wounds. Mm-hmm. And if the second they start focusing on the repulsor, I will either smokescreen it or armor contempt it. Both will be... Depends if they got ignore cover or not. If they got ignore cover, I'll armor contempt it. If they don't have ignore cover, then I'll smokescreen it. So I think it's quite hard to kill a toughness 12, 16 wound repulsor in 1 turn. And I guess even if they do, it's not like my Centurions are going to die from the mortals. They can't die from the mortals. There's only 3 of them. Even if I roll 3 6s, I don't lose a Centurion. So I guess like in turn 2, if let's say I come out, come out within 3, move forward 4. Remember as well, by being in Gladiatus, I can now call Assault Doctrine to get advanced in charge if I want it. So my Centurions could move another d6 forward, so on average that's another 3. Mm-hmm. So with average rolls, in turn 2, my Centurions will be, 13 inches forward, plus 3, plus 4, plus 3. They'll be 23 inches. So they'll be 1 inch away from the opponent's deployment zone in turn 2 and ready to make their charge roll. Do I need to pay 90 points for an assault ramp is what I'm asking.
On the premise that infantry melee is not all that, in general, the utility of being able to charge out of a Land Raider is a lot less. Absolutely.
Yeah,
which is a real shame, because I was looking forward to...
Oh, so was I, man.
Land Raiders being all the shit.
Yeah, no, I was looking really forward to having Land Raiders, like multiple Land Raiders, even a Crusader. But the problem with the Crusader is its guns only kill infantry, and that's why would you need guns that kill infantry?
I mean, you could overlook that if you're making the most out of its really high transport capacity.
Yeah,
you're really not, given the new fixed unit sizes.
The fixed unit sizes are the bitch, though, because, like, for Centurions, like, in a Land Raider or something, you can't even fit a 6-man squad.
I just don't get the logic behind why they did that.
The fixed unit sizes, it must...
Yeah.
It's kind of... I think it's kind of the same reason that they did the fixed weapon options on the Primaris. They're trying to balance it, but it's... I would say that it's kind of irrelevant, like... The balance of one army's units in their weapon options is irrelevant if you can't balance
sure
the rest of the game.
Worth the loss.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, I guess. Alright, is there any questions in chat we need to answer?
Maybe.
I was going to say, we've lost everybody. Everybody's mad at us.
Yeah, how dare you?
How dare you say these units suck?
Yeah.
I just say what I see, I guess.
Well, there's no point being unrealistic about something, is it? You make an observation, you try and work out what's going on, and you try and deal with it, find a new solution.
The plasma is best until Necrons. Lots of 2 wounds and 4 wound models can shred reanimations and destroyer cult stuff. The Bolter Daka isn't quite punchy enough. That's possibly true into Necrons. I guess the question you have to ask yourself is... Someone's making fun of you when you said, what's the best loadout? And you just said, take all the free guns. I mean, that is the best loadout, to be fair.
Yeah, well...
I mean, if there's free guns
Although, to be fair, I'll amend that slightly. When I say take all the free guns, but don't glue the little extras into the top of the Land Raider if you can. Because you never know if GW are going to change it and make them cost a few extra points here where they're not worth taking. So always leave the turret loose so you can swap it out for a blank turret or something like that.
Sin says that as good as armor is, dreadnoughts don't measure up. I think they've overcosted dreadnoughts, Sin. I don't get why dreadnoughts are so much more expensive than, like, equivalent armor pieces, because I mean, maybe it makes a little bit of sense for the melee dreadnoughts, because they can do multiple roles.
I see that argument a lot, and I see the logic, and I understand where it's coming from, but I want to try it anyway, because I'm not convinced that that's correct. I want to give it a go.
Well, I'm going to give a Ballistus Dreadnought a go in my next game, because I'm literally about to paint.
I'm going to run 3 Brutalis and 3 Death Company Dreads and build the rest of the list around it and see how much
you're
shit
ballsy,
that kicks.
man.
That'll be a laugh.
3 Brutalis and 3 Death Company Dreadnoughts will be a laugh. You starting the Death Company ones in reserve, or how you going to play them?
No, I'll start on the board. I mean, come on, 6 Dreads running straight at your opponent.
I mean,
they can shoot whatever they want to shoot, frankly.
You'll bully the midfield, maybe.
Yeah. They might take one down, at which point 5 of them just smash into things and kill them.
Max says he thinks that I was on point the other night when I said that I think dreadnoughts are correctly costed and armor is too cheap. Would you agree with that? Do you maybe think, Mark? But then that's just what we're seeing.
That's like saying the same thing, just in a slightly different phrasing, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and do you know what? That's just for Marines, right? Like, that's a very narrow mindset, actually, because I only play one army. So, like...
Really? What army is that, John?
Well, apparently now it's Red Ultramarines, if you ask people that watch the channel, but, I mean, to me it's Blood Angels.
Nah, you know where your loyalty lies.
I was going to say, do you know what? I actually have a Fire Strike servo turret. I actually don't really know why I have it. It was just, you know, when they do those releases from time to time, and they're like, this is a turret that's going to have 2 las cannons on it, and it can sit and hold an objective. I was like, all right, cool, I'll buy a Fire Strike turret.
I really wanted to buy 3 Fire Strikes when they were in that issue of the Imperium magazine, because they were dirt cheap, and you could get 3 of them for like 30 quid rather than like 1.5 of them for 30 quid or whatever it was.
Okay.
And they all sold out within minutes every issue.
Oh, did they?
I could find somewhere, so I just couldn't get hold of them, which was annoying.
Well, I have 1 Fire Strike turret, and I was like, man, I kind of want to have like 2 Fire Strike turrets. Do you know what their special ability is this edition?
They Overwatch on big numbers, isn't it?
They Overwatch on 4s. And I was thinking, like, you know, a couple of las I think they both have las talons, and I was like, that could actually be just interesting to just be like, oh, you moved your tank, let me just Overwatch it on 4s. Yeah. I don't think they're I don't think they're very good.
It'll be worth a gimmick, but
yeah, it's a gimmicky gotcha.
Yeah. It's not something you want to build your list around.
Sometimes it can be fun to have a gimmicky gotcha, can't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
Highland Phoenix says generic Red Marines assemble. Yeah, we need that with like Captain America from the when they come through the portal at the end of Endgame. And apparently he just says generic Red Marines assemble. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My list at the moment has 2 Death Company units in it. Highland Phoenix. That's what I've changed to after having to drop Tycho. So I feel like with 2 Death Company units, I'm definitely still Blood Angels.
What hurts me the most is not the state of Blood Angels at the moment. It's the fact that people feel so downhearted about it and are giving up and unhappy.
A lot of people are unhappy. Yeah, not just because of the state of Blood Angels, but like just state of a lot of things. The cull of the Firstborn yesterday. Like I was reading through the YouTube comments actually, and I like try and I want to say I answer like a lot of comments.
If they said that article during the run-up to 10th Ed, along with every other thing, just before the indexes were released, that would have not hit anywhere near as hard as it did yesterday.
Yeah, there's so many. Killer says he's going to paint Dante blue with an Ultramarine pauldron.
Go right next to your red Gilliman, can he? Yeah.
And I was going to say, I have a red Gilliman, don't make fun of me.
I know, I'm well aware.
There was an article in Warhammer community yesterday, and Marius Gage was like posting like what's the best Primarch in the whole of the Imperium, and he was like talking because Marius is an Ultramarine player primarily. He's a member on the channel though, and he was like posted a picture of like Gilliman, and I just posted a picture of my red Dreadnought that with like the Robote Gillinot thing next to it.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, he's second best. Yeah. It's I don't know if it's generic Red Marines, but yeah, Marines have taken a lot of hits. I feel like it's been a lot of hits, man.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know what's coming. There's going to be new units for the new codex. There's going to be new models. There's all this sort of stuff, but I mean, that doesn't really help right now, does it?
Yeah, no, I would try and not get downhearted about it.
Yeah.
I'd kind of got over the Forge World thing. Like
they've got us talking about it, which bugs me because it's just like, oh yeah, the marketing's successful. We're all talking about what's coming. Yeah.
I'd kind of got over the Forge World thing. Like I'd kind of realised that like, well, it sucks that we can't use those things anymore. But like, I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to be playing 40k.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
But getting another one just that didn't seem very long after was like, ugh. Because I spoke to Kev today. Hey, thank you so much for subscribing, Florian. I'm sure you've been subscribed before, but maybe it's different, Florian. I spoke to Kev today because Kev was saying to me, he was like, he like I said, I made that video last night. I thought the video sucked. I thought it was overly negative, and Kev said to me, like, I really enjoyed your video, and I was like, you did? I thought it sucked. Not like in a bad video, just like my attitude in the video sucked. But I mean, I'm just being honest, I guess.
Yeah. And you're saying things that a lot of people are feeling, so you're giving a voice to it, which is.
So I said to Kev today, I said to him, like, you have so many, like, blood claws and all these sort of, like, firstborn space wolves, and he was like, yeah, I've got the metal blood claws and stuff, and I was like, dude, you need to, like, I hate to say it, but, like, you kind of need to sell those, or you're going to get, like, at what point to just be like, right, we're not doing blood claws and firstborn anymore, and if you didn't sell them, then you, I don't know what, here's the, like, I don't want to give up my old models, but I have no use for them now. Like, literally none.
Yeah.
Like, I like, my Falchion tank was like my pride and joy. It was like the centerpiece of my army. It's like a £200 tank that I spent months doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's in a box now.
Yep.
And like, I have no reason to take it out of the box, but I don't really want to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how I feel. Like, I can't. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, I just don't know how I feel about it. Like, I don't want to get rid of it because I spent all that much time in it, but it's literally worthless to me now.
I get you.
So I'm confused, I guess.
And it's hurt by all the changes. It's not great.
Simon says killing off the firstborn means my collection dating back to Rogue Trader, of which I still have a copy, is very painful. Do you know what? I actually have Rogue Trader Terminators that are on like 25mm bases. They have Storm Shields and Thunderhammers. I should just rock up to a tournament at GW with those 25mm base Rogue Trader Terminators and be like, hey, well, that's the base they came with. They're legal.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it.
What's our thoughts on Terminators at the moment? Asks Sin. I think the problem is, like, we could look at all these units in isolation, like, hey, Terminators, and the problem that keeps coming back, like, it's the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is armor's too fucking strong.
It's not an elephant.
No, it's just a gladiator tank.
Nobody's talking about it. We're bloody talking about it. But
okay,
no, I get you.
There's a gladiator tank in the corner of the room saying, "Hi, I'm the strongest. I'm the strongest unit in the game. If you don't run," because someone asked today in Discord. Oh, sorry, on the Facebook group, they're like, how many gladiators is the right number? And I think probably 2 is the right number, because honestly, if everyone goes out and buys 3 gladiators, they'll be nerfed before you know it. So I think probably 2 gladiators is the right number, but like there's no disadvantage to running 3 gladiators. Like, you can run 3 gladiators just fine. They are that damn good. They are that reliable. If you have 3 gladiators, not that many people do, I think. Not especially, well, maybe not Blood Angels. Maybe some other like Iron Hands players have 3. But yeah, if you've got 3, you can probably run 3 with very little worry, or I don't know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, like, they're just that good.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah,
Terminators are some of the good infantry choices that we've got. The new models are stunningly pretty, which is a really good thing. The thing that is against them is the same thing that's against every infantry at the moment, which is they will only be effective at killing other infantry. Terminators
with chain fists, I think, are like I ran chain fists into the worst matchup, which was the which was the -1 AP knight with -1 damage. And guess what? If you fight knights with -1 AP damage, even with -1 AP and -1 damage, then your chain fist terminator is actually kind of useless against that.
They're going to be tricky regardless.
But I think I don't mind the chain fist terminators. Like, I think I like them more than the close combat terminators now.
Yeah, assuming that you're running them and you want them to have the ability to kill vehicles, I agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think Terminators are they're possibly a little bit too expensive, like at 205 points for 5 of them, but we're going to have to wait, like, I guess, like they said today in today's article, that it's going to be like, what, a couple of months before we get a balance patch?
Yeah,
and then
the exact wording is a few months, which is fair because they're going to do it every 3 months for balance and points updates, and then there's going to be one at like the end of Jan, so there'll be one 3 months before that, and it'll be every 3 months before that. So if there's one at the end of Jan, then that means the next one is what, end of October, which is what, 3
few months
away?
From now. A few months from now, I guess would be September, maybe.
Which would be 4 months to the end of January.
Highland Phoenix says, how about 9 gladiators? Highland Phoenix, if you have 9 gladiators and you run it in a list, I'd actually love to see it. How many points is that in gladiators? It's like 1,500 points in gladiators, give or take. Someone sent me a list where they ran 9 predators. Good for them. Like, can't imagine it. How did that guy ever get to a point where he had like 6 predators and he's been playing and he was like, do you know what I need? 3 more predators.
I'm actually looking at my 5 or 6 Razorbacks in the cabinet behind me and thinking, would it really be that much effort to rip the sides off and convert them into predators? Probably not.
I was gonna say, do you not got any like las cannons off like Forge World tanks that are dead now, or
Well, there's a nice third-party Cromlech kit you can get, which is Land Raider side sponsons.
Oh, really?
So I've been eyeing those up.
Okay.
There's probably
I like Cromlech. I've got a few of their third-party kits. Their storm shields are pretty cool.
Is a Cromlech whirlwind launcher turret.
Oh, cool. For anyone who doesn't know, Cromlech with a K, Kromlech, I think, is it? Or is it LEC?
Yep, that's right.
No, is that right? They're an EU company out of Germany who do like a lot of third-party bits. And you know when you go into eBay and you need like a single storm shield, I'm not sure this is going to be relevant anymore actually, because you're not going to need to buy a single storm shield unless the Primaris jump squad doesn't come with the right weapon options, I guess. When you used to have to go into eBay and buy a single storm shield.
There's a little...
Oh, you biologist, you made him.
There's the apothecary biologist bloke.
Nice.
Who I'm probably never going to play. Yeah.
And you had to buy a single storm shield, and on eBay they want like $5 for a single storm shield. Cromlech would sell you 10 of their third-party storm shields for $5. Because I actually bought 20 of the Cromlech storm shields, so I could make 20 Vanguard veterans. I wasn't willing to spend £100 to get 20 storm shields off eBay, basically, because that's crazy. Oh well, I never thought I'd be painting up more of these friggin' Dreadnought chassis, not for a while anyway. Hadn't planned to. These chassis actually take quite a long time to paint, I guess, because they're so big as well. I do like it though. Like, this is the greatest thing ever, Mark. Well, like where you've seen this before on the easy to build ones where the arms just pop off of the Dreadnoughts.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's like it's super easy to take the arms on and off. I really like that. Like, take the arm on and off just for being able to paint the undersides and stuff. It's so nice. Alright, I only got like 10 more minutes for tonight's stream, guys.
That's cool. I've built the 2 models I was aiming to build. I'm probably not going to touch these Stern Guard for a while because I don't really care about them.
Yeah, you wouldn't run them with Mephiston?
Not the models that are there.
Would you run them with all combi weapons in Mephiston, or no?
Yeah, I'd probably run them with all combi weapons. I would like to do 10 with all combi weapons, I must confess. But then again, that's anti-infantry that they have.
Yeah, it's pretty much anti-infantry. I mean, you'd only do anti-tank if you would roll 6s for the devastating wounds, and even then it'd probably be like 1 devastating wound. It's not going to be that impactful. Yeah. I cut the side off a Bile Predator. Not the side. You know the sign thing that you can stick on the front of the Bile Predator? Yeah. I cut that off.
Like 2 or 3 of them.
Of the little decals, yeah. And I stuck it onto the missile arm of this...
yeah, I can see it, yeah.
Yeah, just
I've done that with Storm Ravens and Xiphon Interceptors and Storm Eagle and Land Raiders over the years.
Yeah. It's like, it's sad when you feel like you want to buy a whole another Bile Predator just to get the little
cool
decal
bit of plastic
bits.
To stick on. Yeah.
Oh well. Cool, man. If you're needing to hop off, I'll wrap it in a few minutes. If not,
I'm good.
I'm gonna just finish up and I'm trying to think. Let's just talk about the future. So we've got our Blood Angels episode coming out on the Grots channel tomorrow night about 8 o'clock.
Yep.
And then after that, our next
British summertime. Yep.
I was going to say our next episode for the Grots, which we're possibly going to film tomorrow. We might be filming next week, regardless.
Yep.
We are filming an episode about building lists for knights, actually, as well.
Yeah, we did an episode a few weeks ago where we wrote lists live on air for Blood Angels from scratch and talked through our reasoning for why we were doing it, and knocking ideas and suggestions of what units to take and synergies off each other so that we could try and build the best list that we could for what we wanted to play. And it seems to be quite popular, so we're going to do one of those on Imperial Knights next.
Yeah, and if that continues, I mean, we do what's popular, right? So if that continues to be a popular type of series, we might do more.
Yeah.
It's a good way to learn other armies as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get Tony to lead one off on Custodes, and of course all the current rules are free from the index rules and whatnot, so we've got access to all the rules and all the units that we can see. There's no paywall in place for those, which isn't going to last long until the codexes start being released, but make the most of it while we got it.
Yeah, absolutely. So so if you've not yet subscribed, I'll put the link in the chat again one more time. We're almost at 1,200 subscribers over there on our podcast, so If you've not subscribed yet, please consider doing that. Yeah, and then I've actually got a choice. I've got 2 tactics videos that I filmed to release on Friday this week. I'm releasing one. I'm going on holiday, I think it's the week after next or something. So I was trying to get a video in the bank, and of course, now that I've filmed a video early, Games Workshop have reduced a bunch of models. And I'm sure I've mentioned the models that have been reduced in the video that I filmed early, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. So yeah, I've got a video on Gabriel Seth in the tank. I actually kind of think I need to run Seth in 10th edition. Well, he's the only Blood Angels character with a 3 damage weapon now.
Okay.
And I think that I think that deserves.
I mean, three damage is important, but I'm not sure it's the be all and end all. Then again, it might be worth doing.
Well, I just thought that he deserved a shot.
Dude, you gave Tycho a chance and you made him work. If you want to give him a go, fucking do it, mate.
Yeah, no, Tycho. Oh man, I still love Tycho's gun. If no one's played Tycho yet, his gun is so good. It did 8 mortal wounds to one of Andrew's tanks. It was just it was so satisfying. I was going to say, do you think Mephisto will ever attach to Blade Guard, or do you think that that's a pipe dream? Because he's on the same size base as Blade Guard. Why does he not get to attach?
The only reason I can think of why he doesn't get to attach to Blade Guard is balance purposes.
Balance. Yes, because
That's
the balance
all I
is
can think of.
So good right now.
Because it is the most logical unit for him to join, frankly. He's a melee beast. He's chief librarian. He likes slicing stuff up with a big sword. Why would you not put him with the Primaris melee Tacticus armor unit? It makes no sense to me. I don't get it. Okay, cool. Thanks so much for joining us. If you run Seth, Tony will mock you viciously like that French knight from the Holy Grail. He will, but that's also a reason to do it, because winding Tony up like that and then just watching him go is a joy in and of itself.
What has he got against Seth?
He just likes winding up people who like flesh tearers because they're weird.
Okay.
That's all. I'm not sure he's got anything against Seth in general. It's just
in general,
easy target, yeah. And because he's never in that cabinet when we go to Warhammer World and have a look round, they've got all the Blood Angels characters lined up. Every single one of them, all the units, gorgeously painted. Some units of flesh tearers at the bottom. No Seth.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Obviously, because he's so shit, he doesn't even rate a spot in the Warhammer World cabinets. Clearly.
I was going to say, who chooses what models are in there? Like heavy metal painters or someone else?
No idea.
No idea.
Imagine having that job, curator of the Games Workshop Miniatures Museum. That would be a pretty awesome job. Yeah,
it would be an awesome job. Last time I was there was I don't know if they still got the room, but there's one room that's got a balcony around it. Have they still got that room?
Yeah, it's still there last time we went there.
How big is that room? It must be 10, 20 meters by 20 meters or something?
They keep adding to it. They've added Gilliman to it recently, and
some
have they?
Primaris
stuff. Yeah, they keep changing it up and mixing it up in subtle ways over the months, over the years.
Man, it's been it's been about 5 years since I've been down to Warhammer World.
Yeah.
Gonna have to get once my kids are a little bit older and I get free time.
I'm popping down next Wednesday with Tony to. I've got a random day off on Wednesday next week, so.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to join him there.
Okay. Well, I guess if anyone wants to see you at Warhammer World, sign an autograph. There you go.
On a random Wednesday. Yeah, why wouldn't you?
At Warhammer World, if you want to speak to him, probably the best way to contact him would be through the Grots channel, which we've plugged so many times tonight.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys. We will get back to positive, happy Blood Angels stuff soon, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. Once we start knowing what's going to be actually in the range long term and what the new stuff with the new codex is going to be. Yeah.
And I'll give the Ballista Dreadnought a try next week.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we would love it if some of you guys want to come by tomorrow night to hang out and talk Blood Angels with us and find out about. I was going to say Mark's ordeal with Wrath of Khan.
The time a fake wasp flew in my ear.
Is that the scientific term for a fake wasp?
No, the scientific term is a hoverfly.
A hoverfly. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Enjoy your evening, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks again for Mark for coming and hanging out. Hope you enjoyed it.
Pleasure, John. You know.
Yeah.
Good to speak to you guys. Cheers.
Cheers. Good night.
It is the 41st millennium. Mankind battles for survival across the universe, besieged on all fronts by the heretic, the mutant, and the alien. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. One faction of Space Marines stands amidst the chaos, the mightiest of the Emperor's warriors, and a beacon of light in the darkness. This legion, the 9th Legion of Adeptus Astartes, the Blood Angels.